Today we have on the chair and the second vice chair of the Polk County Democrats. We have on the chair, which is Catherine Price, and also the second vice chair, Barbara Harris. Thanks, guys, for coming on and talking about what's going on in the state of Florida and specifically Polk County.
Great.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So can you tell the viewers that don't know where Polk County is in general, where it is? Because a lot of people go right to Polk County, Iowa, when they think about Polk County. So can you tell us where Polk County is and a little bit about Polk County in general?
Well, Polk County is located in the center part of Florida. If you think about Orlando and Tampa, I always say it's sort of in between Tampa and Orlando and then down. There's a little bit that goes above I-4. We have been predominantly a rural county, but over the last years, we've become more and more urbanized as the population has increased. We have 17 incorporated areas in Polk County. We've got 13 cities, 3 towns, and 1 village. And we have been, over the last, I would say 5 years, really ramping up the presence of the Democratic Party in Polk County.
So, we do think of Polk County, and for people that don't know, we have Lakeland, which is a big city in Polk County, obviously, and we all know Lake Wales and that neck of the woods too. Obviously, then there's the part where I'm from, Davenport, Haines City, up in that neck of the woods too. So, and we do have, it's a very diverse county in general. But what's going on in Polk County? What is the outlook of Polk County right now?
Well, I mean, can you be more specific? It's a big question.
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. Like the outlook of Polk County politics, I guess we'll just say.
Well, Polk County has over the, many years, predominantly, particularly on state and federal elections, voted Republican. And it's kind of odd because until 10 years ago, the Democrats actually had a voter registration advantage in Polk County of about 12,000. Right now, we're at a disadvantage of about 13,000. But in the same time period, we've seen an explosion in the number of no party affiliated voters, which is NPAs. So I would say we have roughly a third Democrats, a third Republicans, and a third NPAs. And so really, I would say in Polk County, I've heard that Polk County has the largest number of potential Democratic voters in the state of Florida. We also have the largest number of voters, Democratic voters that could potentially be activated. We also are seeing a lot of shifts in our demographics in Polk County, with a large number of Hispanic voters coming into the district, and also just a large population growth in our Northeast area, which is where you guys live. So there's a lot of dynamics at play. There's a thought that Polk County over time is becoming more blue. So we're probably sort of somewhere in a purple stage. And there's a lot at stake in Polk County. We're on the I-4 corridor, which has historically played a big role in the election of governors, senators from the state of Florida, as well as presidents of the United States.
I agree with you 100%, and that's obviously factual what you said with the voter registration issue, that it used to be really Democratic. And I know you stated the number, I think it was 12,000. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Well, that was how many more that we had voters. Well, right now we're about at 155, and I think they're at like 170 something. So we have total voters of about 500,000 in Polk County. So there's about 155, 56. It fluctuates with the election cycle. Well, right now, I think we have about 157,000 Democrats, about 170 something Republicans, and about 130,000 no party affiliated or NPAs.
I know you just stated, Catherine, that you believe it's getting more purple, but just to lightly push back, how do we say that when there's really no Democrats running for state house, state senate. We did have a good candidate that was actually from, and I know Barbara knows him, Chris Cause. He ran, only lost by about 17,000 to 20,000 votes. But how can we say that it's turning more purple when people don't even want to run for these offices because they're afraid of losing?
Well, go ahead, Barbara.
Well, I think the difference is you're having a lot more people come from Orlando because Orlando is being priced out. So we're getting a lot of people that are moving from Orlando into the Northeast, into the Four Corners area. And now they're slowly moving on to Lakeland, right? So they're building like crazy. I just drove today to the vet's office, and everywhere on my drive, they were building. So I think that's what we mean by purple. Like eventually there's going to be so many more that move into this area that it will, if it's not already, be very purple.
Well, the other factor is, and I will not disagree with you, that running is a hard equation for.
Yeah, you ran for office, you know the story.
Yeah, and it's a hard equation for people, particularly people that are strong leaders in our community. You know, maybe they're feeling like that they would lose and they're more effective doing what they're doing in nonpartisan type roles in the community. However, you have to realize we have 17 municipalities, and each one of those municipalities has people sitting on their city commissions or their town councils or whatever. There's probably, I think the last time I counted, there were 86 of these people. And at least 30 of those people we know are Democrats. There's about 10 we can't identify their party affiliation. So we know that like 35% of all of our municipal candidates are actually registered Democrats. We are hoping that we're going to be able to field some people for these House and Senate races, and they're going to make Polk County into a standalone congressional district. Right. And so part of the formula is not just having candidates, it's also having a party that's strong enough to support good candidates. And the Democratic Party, as far as I can tell, has been on a trajectory of becoming stronger and stronger over the last 5 or 6 years. And I think now we're starting to position ourselves in a way where we can attract and can field good candidates and then support them to win. I mean, that's critical. You know, it's kind of a chicken or the egg, you know. Candidates are reticent until they're confident they can win, and they're not confident to their win until they feel like they have a party that's strong enough to support them.
I know you were a candidate, Catherine, and so you know this left, right, and center. I do have to go into this and ask you this question. Obviously, you're not, oh, sorry. Oh, I thought I pressed the mute button. I know you're not, you know, running the FDP. You only have so much power in Polk County, and that's it. But with that said, you know, there's a lot of people, and there are some really good representatives in Tallahassee that are trying to help more people get involved, especially throughout this midterm election. Anna Escamani, a friend of mine in Orlando, has been really pushing voter registration out. And I think Sharif Jones down in South Florida just started an African-American organization to try to get the vote in those communities too. I don't know if that's just South Florida or if that's all around the state, but regardless, we need to get more people out to vote. The disadvantage from President Obama, where there was, I believe it was like 400 to 600,000 more Democrats in Florida registered. And now, obviously, the Republicans have the advantage, and it keeps going up and up for them. Why do you feel like people in Florida have left the Democratic Party?
You want to answer that one, Barbara?
Nope, I'll let you do that.
Well, I mean, there's a plethora of reasons, Rob, you know, and I wouldn't say, you know, that I think everybody's left the Democratic Party. You know, one of the things that's a problem in Florida is we have a tremendous disadvantage with money. A lot of corporate dollars goes into the Republican Party in Florida and across the United States, you know. So a lot of times the Democratic Party, we may have more support and more, but we're trying to do things with volunteers that the Republican Party just goes out and pays for in drugs. You know, I'll give you a good example. we had, you have people that run for these municipal seats, and these are nonpartisan races,
Right.
but there's a little nonpartisan race down in Fort Meade, and the Republicans were throwing big bucks with these little country bumpkin guys they had down running for these offices who had these slick, huge, beautiful, mailers, and mailers are very expensive and require a lot of planning to send out. So, I don't completely buy this notion that the Democrats are so, and the people are just leaving in droves. I think that we're having a problem counteracting massive amounts of corporate spending in the political field. Number two, this governor has led 2 legislatures to restrict voting in Florida. I mean, he's about ready to sign a second bill that is going to make it even harder to register people to vote and allow them to get out and vote by mail. So when you have that kind of an environment, not only is it harder, but there's a chilling effect on people, and particularly communities of color that have traditionally distrusted the system. So we have a lot to counter. And I think that, can I continue?
No, I agree with you. Going back to Jeb, I mean, this has been going back to Jeb as far as restricting the voting. We saw what he did to black voters back in 2000, and that's been going on with Republican governors in the state of Florida, from Jeb to, well, Charlie Crist did a pretty decent job. I will give him credit of extending voting in 2008 for the Obama-McCain election. But besides that, Rick Scott and obviously Governor DeSantis, I agree with you 100%. But there are people leaving the Democratic Party and changing their registration out.
Well, there's also
that's true for both. Sorry, Catherine.
No, you.
I think that's really true for both parties, though. There's been many Republicans who left the Republican and became MPAs. Also, like the amount of MPAs in Polk County have skyrocketed.
Yeah, but Bob, we saw Trump win Florida huge. I mean, Obama won it by 1 point in 2012, and he won it in 2008 by 3 points. Usually, Florida's about maybe a point or something. Trump won by like 4 or 5 points in Florida. That was unheard of. And I have problems with the Biden campaign. I don't want to relive 2020.
No. Are you talking about the second election for Trump?
Correct. Yes.
He did not win by, historically high amounts in Florida, but the problem here is, people, and I've heard it explained, we have primarily a banker's economy now in Florida. A lot of people have fled high tax states up north. They've come down here, they put their money in the banks here, and they want to keep this state a low tax state. And we also have a lot of service people here that are here to service the needs of these people that have money and have the ability to pay for services. And over time, we're seeing an erosion of the working people's ability to have housing, to get health care, to get their children in decent schools, to just afford food and gasoline. And so I think what you're going to see, and these things tend to be cyclical, but the Democratic Party has to stand up for the values and the needs of the working people of Florida. And the working people of Florida have got a responsibility to have a little bit of education and not to chase every red, shiny object that flashes in front of their face. And I think as you see people starting to have more problems just feeding their families, they're going to be listening more to the message and how it affects their life than they are to just empty promises. And, and one last thing, people are always lodging at the Democrats that we're the ones that wage in these culture wars. Well, I would say that the Republicans have been more aggressive in the last several years in their culture wars against the people than Democrats have been countering it. And I think that right now the Democrats are fully focused on the needs of the people of this state. And, not to mention the environmental, that's another big issue. If we want to save any environmental fragments of this state, we have got to have some pushback on some of the stuff that's just, eventually we're going to be under concrete if we're not careful.
Yeah. Listen, I agree with you 100%. I do think that Florida is personally a red state, though. And there's some blue areas. And besides that, that's it.
Not really, when you really look at the numbers, and believe me, I'm
Right,
a
I
numbers
know.
person. It's not nearly that cut and dried, Rob. And you may want, and I know that all the pundits are like, it's a red state, it's a red state. I'm not saying that we're not having a hard time and that it's a difficult situation, but it's not quite that simple.
Well, I agree with you, though. I think you have points about the money. I think that's why partially it is a red state, because you're outgunned, you're outspent. I mean, Governor DeSantis's war chest, I mean, they could put all three of the Democratic candidates for governor together and it wouldn't even come close, not even like halfway close. It wouldn't even come. So I agree with you. That's a tough race to run. What are you guys doing to target minority and young voters in Polk County?
Well, I will say a few things. I've spent a lot of time in the last few weeks just visiting different leaders in the African American community in Polk County. A lot of building connections has to do with going out and knowing the people that are the actual leaders in the community and making connections and relationships with those people, so that when there's a problem, when there's an issue, when we're looking for candidates, we have people in the community that are working with us. So, and I will say that we have a newly revived Democratic Black Caucus. Our president is James Hogan, who is a longtime employee of the Sheriff's Department, and he's very, very involved in the community in multiple community organizations. And the other thing, we're starting to try to work in the Hispanic community more. We just produced our first voter registration training in Spanish, and we're still working on and tweaking it a little bit, and we're starting to try to look for people that are interested in doing that. But we're trying to show good faith with the community and helping them build the infrastructures that they need to be able to field candidates and stuff like that. So, and we may have some interesting Hispanic candidates come to the fore in this coming next election cycle. So that always tends to energize that community. That being said, we also know in Polk County that we can't win elections without the white community. And we have to be able to forge, support policies that look good and feel good for the entire community, not just one community or the other. So we're working on, reestablishing relationships and building a network of people in Polk County that can get on the same page, with some of our candidates.
So
And
we just got Edwin Menendez. He is our new Young Dems chair for Polk County, and he is one of the most enthusiastic persons I have met in a long time, and he is ready to get the young people involved, because if the young people voted in a humongous way, they could literally change elections. There are so many in their generation, as far as numbers go, but they tend to be like a one. They tend to be more of a one issue thing. The young people, they see something wrong and they go protest against that, as opposed to overall. So his goal is to reach out to all the young Dems and the NPAs in Polk County, and see what can be done and where he can go from that. And I'm really excited to see him work. He's a very enthusiastic young man.
We definitely need to do more work with the young community, young people community, because that's where our future lies as far as leadership. And I think that all the polls tend to indicate that the younger voters are more sympathetic to the Democrats and the things that we stand for. So
even when I was down in Palm Beach and Broward County, they did have some pretty big colleges, and we did have some pretty big activity down there in the college Democrats. But I would go around with my advisor, who is very well known down in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade, and do talks all around those three counties. And of course, those counties, population-wise, are, the three biggest counties in the state of Florida. But regardless of that, when you go to these meetings, these Democratic clubs meetings, they would mostly be elderly people in general. And I know you brought that up, and God bless them. I'm not trying to be mean or disrespectful to those people. I want people to be politically active until it's over for them, and they should be. But how do we get these young people in these meetings? I know you just brought up, Catherine, that, yeah, some of those people are working. We see inflation going out of this world right now. It's tough. But do we get them like maybe once a week in like a voter registration drive, or maybe do a charity event or something like that?
I think you need to do all those things, but I also think one of the things I've been trying to get going is just where they get together and have a drink together, because when I was younger, and I don't know how about you, but I hung out with all my political buddies and we drank together, we ate together, we traveled together, we got to know each other. And when there were political issues that came up, we fought together. And so I think that for the young people, for older people, the social aspect of our work in the party is important. And it's been really taken a hit because of the pandemic.
Sure.
But for younger people, it's even more critical that we have good social environment for them to get to know other people, and to work together and to build those camaraderie and those relationships that frankly, they'll maintain their whole life,
I do want to talk about the vision. What is your vision as chair?
My vision as chair is that we, find and train and elect great leadership for Polk County, Florida. Mm-hmm. And, as far as, the state of Florida and the federal races, those, we want to participate in those and be a positive contributor to those races. But it's about getting good leadership in our community. It's not just about getting blue people elected. It's about us having good people to lead our communities and to face the challenges that we're facing going into the future. So that's my vision. What about you, Barbara?
I agree. I think I'm really big on environmental in Polk. Huge, because when you said that we will be buried under concrete, you weren't kidding. Especially over here. When you get back, Rob, you'll see it. It's literally build, tear down everything. Yeah. So now we have warehouses on every corner in Davenport. We've got Amazon, we've got these people, and the biggest problem I have with it all is we're actually paying them money to be there. They don't pay any city taxes. We're just paying them money to be there, which is insane to me. But I think that if we can get people who care about, what our children are going to face in 10, 20 years, maybe even 5. I mean, you don't know. If we can get people who care about that and want to lead, it's an important thing. Sometimes and don't take this the wrong way, I'm not saying I want to elect a Republican in any way, shape, or form, but there's left-leaning Republicans. Is that what I want to say? Like years ago, some Republicans were middle of the road, some Democrats were middle of the road, and now it's like, you're either over here or you're over there. And I think we need more of the center, not in terms of, not having progressive movement, not in terms of not, improving our world and our state. But I think that as long as you're a good leader and you care about your citizens,
which we're not seeing that with a lot of our elected Republicans. Like a lot of us, if we call them, we're concerned about an issue, they just hang up on us.
Yes.
You go to Tallahassee and then they turn their back and they don't even look at your face.
Yes.
And it's like, that's sort of alarming. When you think about it. I went to Tallahassee a couple of weeks ago just to speak my mind about this upcoming voter suppression bill. And our two legislators, Colleen Burton and Josie Tomkow, literally ran from the room so they didn't have to talk to my friend Ron Martin from Fort Meade and I, because we went up there and they knew that we were not happy with that legislation. So, you know, in the past, I've had legislators that I did not agree with, but at least they would talk to you and reason with you. But right now, it's like they're literally running from their constituents.
There's been a lot of talk with a lot of the young people that I'm friendly with, and I'm not talking about people that are 18. I'm talking about, you know, 20-ish, 30-ish, and they're very upset with the Democratic Party. This is not so much about, you know, the Polk County Democratic Party. This is just talking, you know, freely in general, because President Biden did not pass Build Back Better. There was a lot of good things in that bill. I do think that there was a thorn in his side, but I also have an issue that he didn't stand strong against the people that were thorns in his side. There's a lot of people that are pissed off about that, says they're not going to go out and vote because they're kind of just fed up with the system. These are the people that we're fighting against to make sure that they vote, because if they don't, then the Republicans win for sure. So, you know, I want to talk about that. And then I know we want to talk with the last question about messaging, but how would you target these people that are in my age group mostly? And there's even people that are in their 40s and 50s that work. And they say, you know what? We voted for Joe Biden. We thought there was going to be a change. We voted for a person that was going to get things back to normal. And they say he hasn't. Now there's a war in Ukraine. Now there's all this inflation, gas, food, everything in the kitchen sink is up. How would you approach people, whether they're young or old, rich, poor, whatever nationality they are, that say, you know what? I voted Democrat, down ballot. Screw these people. They're not doing anything for me.
Let me take this, Barbara.
Yep.
That's why I'm the chair. You get those.
Yeah, right? You know me.
No. Well, Rob, you know, this is really serious stuff, you know, and it's like, you know, and I'm not trying to be facetious here, sure, but part of the problem in this country is people have eaten pretty well, no matter what kind of politics they pursued and who was their leaders. And when the chips are down is when you have to have good leaders. Like, you know, I keep thinking about, what if we had Trump and we were in the same situation with Ukraine? Oh, you know, and I'm not saying that Biden is perfect or whatever, but he's got a very steady hand on the tiller. And he is not just jumping in or saying, you know, inflammatory or crazy stuff. You know, part of the thing about Trump was you just never knew what was going to happen next. And you weren't ever sure whether he was on their side or our side. You didn't know, you know, and I just keep thinking about that as we proceed deeper into this situation with Ukraine. Well, the same situation applies to our domestic politics. You know, a lot of the things that are happening as far as inflation and supply side, you know, supply chain problems, a lot of things with our economy, these things are things that have been baked in for many years and have been developing over a long period of time. And they only took one crisis to trigger and make them even worse than they already were going to be. So, you know, you can go out and you can try to lodge that this is all Biden's fault. This is all the Democrats' fault. Well, hell no, it is not. Right. Because they have not been in power that long in Washington. We are not in power in Florida.
For 20 years.
A lot of these things are, you know, the responsibility of the leadership that we've had. And at a time like this, do you want someone whose primary concern is the corporate interest in your community, or do you want someone in leadership who's concerned about the people that live there, our children, our jobs, our economy, our environment? I want someone who's smart. I want someone who's got some skill sets to make wise, thoughtful decisions. And just because things don't turn out exactly the way that you want them does not mean a person is not a good leader. Okay. And that is something people got to get out of their heads. You know, even great leaders can make decisions and there can be bad outcomes. Okay. So do you want a wise, smart leader, or do you want someone who is out there? They're narcissistic. They're out for number one. They're out for a few interests in the community, not the overall good of the community.
Yeah, I just gotta I agree with you, by the way, in Florida for sure. 100% in Florida. But just to push back, you know, I know, and I'm not a Trump person, but first, I just gotta push back because I don't agree that I think there was a worse president Trump. There was I screwed up. I think there was a worse president in our history than Donald J. Trump, and it was George W. Bush. George W. Bush started 2 wars on Iraq and Afghanistan. George W. Bush killed over 6 million people. That's 6 million people that died in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's including our soldiers and Iraqi and Afghanis. I think, and the people that say, listen, Trump was a blowhard, he was a used car salesman, he was a joke. But you know what? Trump didn't get us into any wars. Trump didn't do any of that stuff. So I'm kind of fed up, and I'm not yelling at you, Catherine, because you didn't really state this, but I'm just kind of fed up with Democrats in general that say Trump, Trump, Trump. Trump was a symptom of the real problem in this country, that we don't have health care for all, that we don't have a minimum wage, that we don't have any environmental policy because all these politicians are bought up by gas. Everybody's bought up by big pharma in this country. He was a symptom of that. He put a bad name to that. So for everybody, Trump is not, in my mind, the worst president we ever had. The worst president we ever had was George W. Bush, who stole an election in 2000. Trump, you know, in my mind, I know some people think he stole from Hillary, but I don't believe that personally. George W. Bush stole Florida in 2000. I know people's minds don't remember that far. I know we remember those things. But people's minds don't remember that. But he stole a legitimate election in Florida with Jeb Bush and Catherine Harris, and even in Ohio, no one talks about that in 2004. The head of the Ohio Republicans for George W. Bush was the Secretary of State who was counting the votes, and they suppressed black votes in Ohio in 2004. I study this stuff like peanut butter and jelly. This stuff
I did not know that.
Mind. You're bringing it all back. It's like post-traumatic stress syndrome, Rob.
Because I just brought my talk all this stuff about Trump. And again, I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't like Trump. I didn't vote for him. But please,
and you know, and let me say, Rob, that I completely agree with you. And I've said this myself a number of times. The one thing that I appreciate about Trump was he did not get us into another war. And and so, you know, to say that as true, that's not to say if he had gotten a second term that would have carried forward.
We don't know.
We don't really know that for sure. So, but I totally agree, because I remember when Bush stole that election in Florida, because I was working on a congressional campaign. I was in between jobs and I was a paid staffer on a congressional campaign. And the day of the election, I got the flu or something. It's the worst case of the flu I've ever gotten. And I barely drove home. And I was like, I had worked so hard in that election. I was sick. I woke up like 3 times in 3 days, and I'd go, did he lose or did he win? Go back down again. It was like, sort of like, what do you call it? I was having hallucinations almost. It was so bad. Right, exactly. So I totally agree with you. The thing that I find alarming about Trump was that he was very erratic. You know, and you're in a world of nuclear weapons, you know, and I agree that there's been much more horrible things done than what Trump's done by the Bushes. That's why I said a lot of the stuff that we're going through right now has been baked in by a lot of different things. And so to bring that home and say that it's all the Democrats' fault, you know, the Democrats typically have brought our economy back from the brink of destruction.
Every time.
Every single time.
Every time.
And then it's about the time the economy starts to look good, the Republicans take over again and they crash it. And then we get it and we rebuild it. And it's like, so, and I'm not saying that either one of the two parties are perfect. In Florida, though, we have a problem because we've got a party that's too strong. And when you have one party, either one of them, when they get too strong, they become arrogant, they become abusive, and they become, and they have no fear of consequences.
None.
So in this state, we have to rebuild a Democratic Party. And I'm not to say that we don't have problems and that we're not doing it, but some of us are working on it and we are determined that it's going to happen. And brick by brick, we're putting it together. So, you know, and as far as young people and them blaming, you know, people for stuff, you know, you can't speak to that. You know, if they want things to change, they got to get off their butts and they got to get out and they got to work with us or work with somebody that they think is worthwhile. So, you know, some of this is you said it's societal. It is societal. But when you are hungry, you will change. When it comes down to it, to the fact of the, you know, it's your life and your food, you will work harder.
Well, the only way,
I hope we're not headed toward another depression in the current environment. And, you know, things can get very, very politically chaotic at times like this, but leadership becomes more crucial at a time like this. So we need some young people that have a sense of civic duty, that are not completely just absorbed in their own life and their own needs, and can understand that we need people that put the community first. And I think that is the one thing that has been the most impressive about this guy Zelensky in the Ukraine. People are not used to seeing a young person stand up with their community in that type of a dire situation where their own life is at stake.
He is amazing.
You know, just to push back.
You gotta push back.
Yeah,
I'm starting to there's a theme here. Okay.
Yeah, well, with the young people thing, you know, there's people that voted for Bernie Sanders. And they voted for him twice in 2016, and whether you like Bernie or not, he tells it like it. He tells it like it is.
And you know, Bernie's one reason I ran in 2018, because he said, if everyone that has concern about the future needs to be out doing something, and I listened to him.
But just to say that, like, there's a lot of people that did go out and vote for these people. Again, a lot of people voted for Joe Biden that are in my age demographic, even younger people, because he made these statements to say he was going to pass a lot of these things in the Build Back Better. He was going to cancel student debt. He was going to get a public option for health care. We haven't really saw anything happen there, period.
Well,
so,
you know, okay, Rob, can I push back a little bit?
Good job, because I want to.
I feel a need to just push back just a little bit. Okay.
All right. To spice this up go ahead.
No, I mean, some of this is just political immaturity, okay? You don't get everything you want. And sometimes you have to fight for years to get small incremental change. Ask the African-American community about this. And sometimes you have 2 steps forward and you get knocked back another 3. So it's like, to say that they voted for this and you know, and you can't, do you want a revolution? The only way after the Senate counts and the House counts and the votes aren't there, you know, I mean, the people in West Virginia need to deal with this guy Manchin, and the people in, what is it, Arizona, I can't remember where Sinema comes from, they've got to deal with her. You know, we can't. But it was like the votes were not there, okay? And short of him going and, you know, like Trump, just putting someone in the Senate so they could vote for it.
And again, I think a lot of the reason why those things didn't happen is because they are bought, right? They are bought by big oil, by big pharma. They are bought. So that's why
you asked the women. You asked women that bought for the vote over and over again. You've asked the African-American community that fought for their civil rights over and over again if people were not bought back then. People
That's
have
right.
always been bought. And it's like, it has to do with enough people fighting back to change it. That's just the way it works.
Well, we
especially when
had
an out and out revolution in the street,
I mean, if
I
it
think
gets
that's what
things,
we need.
yeah, if it gets things
Well,
done,
I
I'm
mean,
cool with that.
let's not go there, because that's what we saw in
I
January 5th.
agree. Yes.
Okay. We do not want.
Oh, I wasn't talking revolution like that. That's
Yeah.
that's not what I was talking about, revolution. I was talking about everybody marching in the streets to try to change what is going on.
I mean, we
They
need.
shouldn't be allowed to buy stock that they vote on. There's just things that shouldn't be allowed to happen.
Yeah, I just want to interject. If we had a president that was a Democratic president that got a lot of social programs done, his name was LBJ. And if he had Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema, he would have grabbed him by the throat and say, "You vote for this bill, or I will make your life a living hell." All right. That was a guy that was respected. Joe Biden was supposed to be respected in the U.S. Senate. He was in there for 39 years. He talks about it many times. And he can't get a person like Joe Manchin to get anything done. I'm sorry.
Well, okay, wait a minute. Wait.
Okay,
What do they say? It's not over till the fat lady sings.
Oh, come on, Catherine.
No, I'm serious.
It's over. We're going to get smoked
No,
in
it's
2022. It's
okay.
over.
Well, I don't believe that.
That's fine.
I don't believe that.
We can disagree.
No, well,
we can disagree, but I don't believe that we're going to get smoked. I believe
matter of fact, we may not get smoked.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's like, sometimes the press is like an echo chamber. They keep saying these things over and over and over again, and they become, they create a momentum of their own. And it's like the Republicans have had a hell of a lot of problems in the last little while. They have a civil war going on within their own party.
Yes, they do.
And it's like, they've got some real wacko people out there, and it's like, so it's like, we need, and I'm not saying that we don't have problems, but there are a lot of very intelligent people throughout this country that are trying to make sure that that does not happen.
I agree, but it's what have you done for me lately? And the gas prices, the food prices, and no one's doing nothing. The Democrats are in power. I'm sorry.
What do you think the Republicans are going to do?
I agree with you, but it's just, what have you done for me lately? I'm not saying the Republicans are doing anything better. They're not, but they're just going to sit there pretty and let the Democrats fight about Build Back Better, which honestly is never going to get passed because, like you said, Kristen Sinema, Joe Manchin, and Joe Biden won't go after them hard. And that's going to be the way it is. And then the Democrats are going to why are all these Democrats retiring over 31? They know it's going to happen. I'm sorry, Catherine. We can, dream that it's going to be some blue wave. I mean, that's being gullible. I don't see that. Okay, why are all these people retiring?
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What would you do about it?
I go out and vote every election. I volunteer. I volunteered with Anna Eskamani because I believe in her. I believe in her politics. I wish she would have ran for governor because I think she would have won against Ron DeSantis. I think there's no Democrats that can challenge Ron DeSantis like a progressive person, and that's why I work for her. I'm going to work for somebody that I believe in their policies. She fought for people that were all over the state of Florida for unemployment. She believes in a progressive agenda. She's fighting every day, always on TV, all across the state of Florida. I'm with somebody like that. I'm sorry, these people that call themselves Democrats and they walk around and they don't do much. I don't have any enthusiasm for them. That's why she has tons of volunteers that are in high school, that are in college, that are old people, young people. She won a Republican seat in 2018, and she keeps that seat, and she even gets Republican voters to vote for her in Orlando. So that's a person that I think is on the up and coming in the Democratic Party in Florida. Besides her, and maybe a couple, the Carlos Guillermo Smith over in Orlando too is good. And I may be forgetting one or two other good people, but that's it. There's no real hope besides these progressive candidates that are in Central Florida. We're lucky that we live in Central Florida, and we have these people that are working their ass off and fighting in all over in Tallahassee to stop a lot of these bills. We had a Osceola Democrat that voted with the Republicans to make sure that solar bill passed. So now we can't have solar and get money. These people are not Democrats. They're fake Democrats. So like Andrew Gillum said, if there's a Republican and a moderate Republican, the Republicans are going to vote for the Republican every time. So I'm sorry, maybe that was a rant. Maybe people didn't like this. You guys didn't like this, but I'm talking truthful. I'm talking about people that are my age, what they believe, why they don't vote, because they vote, they volunteer, they try to vote or do voter registrations, and nothing changes. None of these policies get passed that Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or even going back farther than that. They just talk. Universal health care has been a Democratic talking point for 50 years. And
Yeah,
no
but
one can get it done.
But we also have the ACA, so I disagree with that.
And
It's not universal health care.
It's not universal, but it is more than millions of people.
We don't have
in this
Medicaid
country had
expansion in
before
Florida.
that.
well,
either,
and that is
Well, that's DeSantis. That don't have
It's
nothing
Rick
to do
Scott,
with
too.
Oklahoma. Yeah,
Rick Scott's fault, actually. Not
well, and
more
like
so.
here's a good example, Rob. You know, I have fought for healthcare since probably 30 years. Every time there has been a battle for more healthcare in Florida, I have helped organize for a half-cent sales tax in Polk County for indigent healthcare. I think it was 2004. So that's 18 years ago. And we have been generating millions of dollars in Polk County and helping a lot of people that would not have had health care in our own county without that tax. So, you know, I've fought for federal changes to health care that would increase, and I was very supportive of it. I fought with Hillary Clinton when she and Bill Clinton made their first push for affordable health care.
Right.
I fought with when they got the ACA, when they were trying to push, you know, to vote down the ACA, and what's his name? The guy that passed away, and McCain. When McCain voted, there was the one Republican vote that stopped that from happening. I went to Washington, and there was an interfaith vigil, and we slept on the Capitol ground in front of the Capitol, you know, with people from all over the country, you know, who opposed that bill. And so at every juncture, I have fought for more health care for people in this state and in this country. And it has come incrementally, and that's probably the way that we will increase. You know, there's still a lot to be done, no doubt. You know, this pandemic.
This isn't an attack against you, though.
No. And it's not, but my point was, you know, and I think your answer was good when I asked you, what do you suggest doing about it? You know, and it's like we need leaders. I think if there's one thing that we're lacking right now, it is good leadership. People with good leadership skills are sitting back and they're not getting involved because they feel like that politics is difficult. It's complicated. You get beat up if you try to stand up and do the right thing. But we've got to have more brave people that are willing to put the community as a high priority in their life. Because I cannot tell you, right now, I'm a fiddle player. You know, I like playing the fiddle. I would rather be sitting at home with my husband, playing fiddle with my music friends, and, you know, traveling around and working in my garden than doing this kind of work. I can tell you.
Yeah. No,
You know,
I hear you.
It's a sacrifice of your life to do this kind of stuff.
No,
And
God bless you for doing what you're doing.
well, and I'm not asking, I'm not saying that to be, I'm just saying that this is basically a challenge to young people, middle-aged people, older people, to take some role in their community with making their communities better and safer and a better place to live for people for the future.
What I guess I was getting to, and I know we're moving toward the end, but I guess what I was getting to is that, you know, they always say this is the most important election of your lifetime. This is the most important election. Every election is. And, they're talking about,
Well,
and then we have people that go out and vote. We've had like Barack Obama, just to say, and he did some good things. And he did some stuff that I really disagree with. But besides the point, and I was one of the people you spoke about the ACA that was making calls to when I was in South Florida at the time, going to college. And I think the ACA has saved a lot of people money and saved lives. But we need to finally get to that step. And the reason why it's not happening I don't think it's the incremental thing that you were stating. I think it's the reason why is because we have so much money in politics. And again, it goes to whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, a lot of them are getting paid off by the same people. And they say, I want that money. I need that money for election time. So you know what? I'm not going to vote for this. I don't believe that Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin are the only two Democrats holding back that bill. I think there's 7 or 8 other Democrats behind the scenes.
Well, it's not just Kristen Sinema and it's not just Joe Manchin. It's 50 Republicans.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm saying
they're also the one that have prevented us from passing, meaningful, protection of our vote in this country through the John Lewis Act and those 2 election bills in Washington.
Freedom to vote.
I'm getting a little bit tired of hearing about it's all the Democrats' fault. Okay. Yeah, and it's like, those people in the past, there were certain ones that would come across on a vote like that, and they would vote in a bipartisan fashion to protect the people of this country.
It was 90, the freedom, the John Lewis passed all the time, 93-0, 96-0. And now suddenly, because of all of the partisan stuff going on, they vote for nothing. So I agree with Catherine in that sense that
I'm tired of hearing the press just hammer it over and over again. And I'm tired of hearing the press say that we have no good messaging.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. It's like over and over again, they hammer us like that. And it is not true. And it's like some kind of a football game. It's not a football game.
What is the messaging that you think that we should be putting out
right
now then?
Republicans, Democrats, whatever, we've got to start putting the community first. And we've got to start talk to each other, and we've got to treat each other in a civil manner. It's like, we cannot be talking to each other like we're objects, and that, this whole thing about a civil war in this country, we're already at civil war. Well, no, we're not.
I don't agree with that.
We're not killing.
I have a lot of friends and that I live in my area in Davenport that are Republicans, that are Trump supporters. We get along like peanut butter and jelly. And one of the guys, he comes down, and anytime I need help, he's there in 10 seconds. I trust that guy with anything. And I'll tell you what, I am so, that's why I have friends that say every Trump supporter is a racist, a misogynist, every word in the book. And I think that's really messed up that people say that. There are those people. There's Democrats that I know that are just as freaking racist as the friggin' Trump people are, or even freaking worse than some of them. They're really messed up. So I don't think we should be just calling everybody racist and playing this woke identity politics game. I'm so fed up with the crap. And that's where, I hate to say this, I stand with a lot of these people that are Republicans that say that, they're sick of the identity politics. They're sick of the wokeness. I'm sick of the crap too. I'm sick of all this woke bullshit. And, I used to teach in the schools in Florida. And if you threw the kid out of the classroom, they'd call you a racist. Didn't matter if they were freaking white or black or Asian or whatever the hell. They just call you these words. So it's a freaking joke. And that's a problem in our country. And it's not all this politics stuff. Some of it is, but it's a lot to do with the media making all this stuff good and bringing up all this stuff. I don't know. I'm not, I'm not politically correct, and I don't care.
I'm a musician, and this is what I've been starting to tell some of the people in our community, because, I'm trying to reach across different types of boundaries. And I said, you know, I'm a musician, and I had a friend, he would joke me and he'd say, Catherine, he says, you're like me, you'll play music with anybody, you know? And I said, that's the way I am about politics. I will play politics with anybody. I encourage anybody, Democrat, Republican, or MPA, if they've got an issue, to come talk to me about it. And if there's a deal, like when we're doing different kinds of issues in the community, if I see where we can play a positive role in making, you know, like for example, we went over during one of the school board meetings and had, when, you know, there was a big debate about masking. And we went over there to say that we thought that we were supportive of the school board about masking. And then there's this group in our community, the CCDF, which this group, apparently some of them were at the January 6th event. They had the guy that helped them incorporate their organization had direct ties to John Eastman, this lawyer. So, you know, it's like, but I started realizing that if we kept going over there to the school board as Democrats and kept getting involved with this yelling and, you know, this kind of like manipulative type of stuff, that we could just keep raising the level of anxiety in the community. And really, these school board members needed to be able to be supported in just doing their job. Their job is like making sure that the kids can get to school, making sure that the kids have got food in the lunchrooms, making sure that the teachers have got what they need to be able to teach, and that we did not need to be over there creating more anxiety just to, you know, for some political points. So
the media screwed up COVID, and they made it pit a lot of people against each other. You're for masks, you're against masks, you're for the vaccine, you're against the vaccine. If you're against the vaccine, you're for Trump, and all this bull.
Did you say the media did that?
Yeah.
I think they helped it along, but I don't think they were the beginning of that.
Well,
I could be wrong.
To be fair, Trump,
I don't either. Actually, Trump started that.
Well, Trump is pushing for the vaccine right now, so.
Well, yeah, but that's because he thinks
Hello.
he's going to get some.
They made a dollar short. I would say.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm not trying to stick up for Trump again. I'm just stating.
Well,
but my thing is.
Okay, let's not on that issue. Okay, Rob.
Okay. But my thing is.
I agreed with you on international war, but I'm not prepared to concede that on vaccinations. And
yeah, me neither.
Yeah, we won't talk about the vaccination stuff. But my thing is that we have to come together. And I think Trump made a mistake, and I think he would have ran away with the re-election two ways. If there was no COVID, he would have crushed Biden really hard. And if there was also, he would have run away with the election if he went into COVID, like, even though I'm not a George W. Bush guy, after 9/11, George Bush said we're going to go and get the terrorists, rah, rah, America. If Trump did that, he also would have won re-election with that. And I think it would have been better for the country as far as us coming together around the masks, around the vaccine, if he did do that. So I think that was a big mistake.
Don't count on that.
Well, that's personally how. If George W. Bush could do it, I think Donald Trump, the media master, could do it personally. But and because George W. Bush wasn't too bright either, we'll just say that, to say the least. But I do want to end with this: is that I think that what I want the lesson to be out of this podcast, and then I'll ask both of you ladies what you think the lesson should be, is what I want is if we can all talk to, and I know we don't all agree on everything here, that's for damn sure. But I think that as Democrats, and when we talk to our Republican friends, we have to say, let's not yell. And if they're yelling and hooting, and there are those people, like you said at the meetings, Catherine, they just go there to hoot and holler and yell and scream and to get attention. Maybe they're not getting attention at home, or they need some help in general. That's besides the point. But for the people that are civilized, and there are those civilized people still around, that
on both sides,
that, you know what, they might like Trump, and maybe we don't agree with anything they say, or maybe we agree with half of the things that they say. Let's try to come together and say, all these people are not racist, anti-Semitic, misogynist people. Like, and that was the thing with the Hillary Clinton. The deplorables comment crushed her, and I don't think that was fair to say.
Well, you know, I agree. And like, they came to me from the Ledger, our Lakeland Ledger, and asked me about some of these signs that are being put up in the community, where it says, let's go Brandon. And, there's other ones that are like F Biden and then stuff like these, just
they're looking for attention. Who cares?
Well, yeah, but, and I said, look, if the worst that I couldn't agree with what Trump was doing, I never put a vulgar sign in my front yard because I respect the office of the presidency. Even if I don't like what Trump did and who he was, I did not disrespect the office of the presidency. And there's this move afoot to be very vulgar and be very disrespectful. And I think that those kind of things are not helpful.
And I do think Trump brought out the vulgarness, but I think there was vulgarness already there because a lot of these people, again, there was some that were racist and misogynist, but a lot of these people that bought into the used car salesman Trumpism was because these people were freaking hurting and they don't have good paying jobs.
I don't, I agree with that and I don't agree with that. I have a lot of friends that have hurt and been very, very oppressed. But like when we had the election in 2020, they brought a Trump caravan through our town and they were going to go through east of Lake Wales in a very poor Black community, not very poor, but an African-American community, working class community on one of the rougher streets in that community because they were looking for a fight. And they had vulgar, they had vulgar banners up. They had Confederate flags. They had pictures of Trump with, rapid fire weapons. They had, because the governor had this new law where you couldn't, if somebody got in front of you during a protest, you were allowed to run over them. There was a dummy of a person tied in front of that pickup truck. Now, and there were a couple of people in there that I knew. Some of us went down there and stood with the people in the community. And I think the sheriff's department actually made them turn that caravan and not go down into that community. But those people, there were people that during that I lost respect for because, and these were not poor people some of these people were people that had money and power in this community. Okay, so to say that all these people that have behaved like that were poor and oppressed.
No. Again, I said there are people that are racist, it's a half and half. But I don't want people to say that everybody is like that. That's like saying everybody that took the vaccine is a Democrat, or everybody that didn't take the vaccine is a Republican. You can't put everybody in one box.
No matter what, you cannot.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
And there's people that you agree with on certain things and you disagree with them on others.
Listen, I voted for Biden. I don't like him. He's not my cup of tea. But if somebody drove by, and there's been people I've say with the FU Biden, I just think that's kind of rude and ignorant. It's somebody that's not really doesn't have much class.
That may be true, but I think the problem I have with all of that seriously is my mother driving down a highway and seeing, the Nazi symbols, she came from that. I think that people aren't realizing what they're doing to children. Like, children see these things. You go to a grocery store and there's this humongous flag that says, F you Biden, or let's go Biden, or whatever it says, right? So children are seeing this. Children are hearing their parents. Children, and don't misunderstand me, there's been times when I've just lost my ever-loving mind. I don't have children in my house, but there are people, that your children hear what you say, and then they turn around and go to school and repeat what you say, right? So
I agree with that.
The children are who it is affecting the most. Right. They can think whatever they want to think with the third.
All right. So Barbara and Catherine, whoever wants to say this, where can people find more about you, help out if they want to get involved in meetings, whatever it may be?
Well, Barbara is our PR and publicity chair, so she's going for it.
Well, we have a lot of different clubs in a lot of different areas. You can go to polkdemocrats.org and it will give you all of our information. There's the Northeast Polk, there's Lakeland, there's Lake Wales, there's Greater Winter Haven. There's also a lot of caucuses. I think we have 6 caucuses, if I'm not wrong. So if you are an environmental person, you can join the environmental caucus. We are just starting an education caucus. We have the Black caucus. We have the newly formed Jewish caucus. We have the disability caucus, which is all important, because did you know that 1 out of every 4 voters has some form of a disability? Yeah. 1 out of every 4 voters. That's amazing to me. So we have monthly meetings. We have a DEC meeting every month. We have a weekly digest. You can go to polkdemocrats.org and sign up for our weekly digest, and we will send you everything that's going on. You can sign up for Mobilize. It's mobilize.us, and find everything that Polk County is doing for the different Democratic actions.
We have 167 precincts in Polk County, yep. And you can go out and become a precinct captain or work with your precinct captain in there.
You can come into the DEC, you can be on a committee, on the publicity committee, on the outreach committee, you can be on the diversity and inclusion committee. There are so many different things that you can do. You can find what you really, really love and become the chair of that committee. There's so much that we can do in Polk County to really turn it around. We really have a lot going on, and I think that 5 more years, it's going to be a totally different outlook in Polk County. I do believe that. So that's
guys. Oh, thanks. Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.